I lived in Brighton for 9 years.
Did you? Whereabouts in Brighton did you live?
Hollingdean, near Five Ways.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go there for work, so I know the area.
Ah, nice. Yeah. My big regret was selling that house. I loved living there.
Oh, you love that
But
property.
my first house I bought by myself, you know, and everything. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of good memories.
Hell yeah.
You bought one in Brighton?
What's that, Giles?
You bought a house in Brighton? No,
I did, yeah. I lived there for 9 years. I was still in the Northeast, and after university, I got offered a job in Brighton, and I thought, well, might as well try something different, you know, test yourself. So I went down, and yeah, it got me started off nicely, that. And it's a great place to live back then as well.
Hell yeah. Do you still come back to visit, Alan? Have you been back to Brighton at all?
I have not seen Brighton since about 2007 or something, because it actually made me sad to go back, you know, and see it. And then
it can be like that. It can be quite haunting, like the specters of all the memories and what it was and how much it's changed.
So I worked in Brighton, and then like near Preston Park, just over from Preston Park, and that was great. I just used to walk from the house to work every day, and then, you know, that was right there. And then after that, I got a job in London. I used to commute from Preston Park Station up to London every day.
You animal.
Yeah. Well, by the time I was leaving, people were having to stand from Burgess Hill. So, like, I don't know how bad it is now.
Yeah.
I've done that in my time.
Yeah.
You've
done the standing commute.
Horrible. Well, it's better. At least it's better now. They've got the Gatwick Express going. From that's sort of made it a little bit better. But of course, not everybody wants to go into Victoria. Most people want to go into London Bridge.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, let me throw it open to you tonight, Alan. What would you like to learn? If there was something that could be that we could get a quick win for you, something that you could take home today, that would allow you to improve your communications, what would the first thing that come to mind be?
I think one of the things for me is, Giles, that I often hang back and let the other person speak first.
You hang back and let the other person speak first.
And I actually would like it if I would be a bit more driven and like could just like start conversations nicely.
You'd like to be a bit more driven and
assertive. Assertive.
Yep. That's the word.
Right on.
Assertive, and you'd like
assertive,
to start
Alan.
So what's important to you about being more driven and able to start conversations naturally and being assertive? What will that do for you?
I think that sometimes if the other person starts it, you're on the back foot a bit and they're setting the agenda.
On the back.
And sometimes it's nice to actually feel a bit more in control of, and I don't mean in control like in a bad way, but just like in more in control about gaining the information that you want, maybe in a work or personal thing, you know, just
gaining the information you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So when you're able to avoid going on the back foot, and to be able to gain more control of the situation by taking action and taking the initiative to start the conversation, and therefore to be able to kind of set the pace of your own and tone of your own agenda. What will that give you that's important to you?
Do you know what? That's a good question. But I think for me, it's more like being more in control of my own life, because sometimes you feel like because other people are setting the agenda, you're more at the mercy of other people.
Yeah, other people.
That's a really good question, Giles. That's deep.
Let's see, yeah. And it sucks, doesn't it, when you're on the back foot and you don't really feel in control, and other people are setting the agenda.
And now you're really getting my mind racing, because I mean that's when you often feel about like job things and things. You're often responding to other people's exactly, rather than you being the one who's like in control, looking and driving it.
Responding. So,
Yeah.
so when do you feel like when you're responding, you're more like the victim of circumstance, you're more at effect rather than at the cause of the situation?
Yep.
Okay.
When
So-
you said responding there, I'm actually write down responding instead of initiating. That's exactly
Yeah.
how it is for me, I think. Yes.
Okay. So how would that change your life when you're able to gain that control by being able to initiate? Oh, Elijah's turned up. So, when you're able to when you're able to gain control by initiating, and you're no longer on the back foot, I'm guessing that puts you in a position where you have more choice.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
That's the word I was going to use, is more choices about where it goes next, or choosing what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
Right. So that's pretty important to you, to be able to do that, and to be able to have that choice that takes you away from being on the back foot by being more assertive and having more choice, and the ability to be a cause rather than effect. Ultimately, what will that do for you? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means I can decide where I want to be and what I want to do.
To decide where you want to be.
Yes.
Where you want to be.
Physically or mentally.
Be, and what you want to do. I'm sorry, I'm right.
No, this is good, because I'm even writing it down, because I've never thought about it so directly.
Good evening, Elijah. How are you, sir?
Hello, Harry. Yeah, not bad at all. Yourself?
Not too bad, thanks. Not too bad, thanks. We just got we just got Enna Rose here, myself, yourself, and last of all, by no means least, is Alan.
Assertive Alan.
Yeah. Yes, he wants to become more assertive and to become more cause and less of effect in the. I think, to use your own words, Alan, you said when you let other people initiate conversations and start as a starting point, it kind of puts you on the back foot.
Yep,
you want to gain more
that. Yes.
Control. So, Enna, if there was something that you wanted to get out of this meetup tonight that you could use and take away without, or something you want more of, or something you want less of, or some particular skill that you could take away.
Well, thank you for asking. My question came to me really instantly, and I wrote it down. And I've now already done a little bit of my own work, and I'm willing to work with you further on it. I've realized that some of the things that my question, like, it's already been spoken to a little bit over the sessions. So my thing today that's burning is around communicating with people whose default stance is reactivity and refusal to listen or explore. To speak with people for whom, no matter what it is that I'm offering or inquiring about, the default stance is very much one of like reactivity, refusal to explore. So that's something that's quite like heavy and present with me right now. I feel like over the weeks we've talked into this a little bit, you know, techniques that can help work around people's strong refusals.
Is it just a refusal to explore, or is it more a sort of contempt and deny, just a general unwillingness to accept any of your ideas?
Oh, that's a really good question. Is it refuse? I would, how it feels is like the defensive stance comes out instantly, in a way that doesn't give me much like room in the lead up. to it, you know, like it doesn't take very long with this particular person I'm imagining before defensiveness kicks in, and I'll own my part in those conversations, but I really feel like I'm trying to explore lots of different ways in, and I feel like I keep kind of provoking that reactivity and that like refusal to engage.
Refusal to engage.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Refusal to engage.
Yeah, so, you know, lots of tactics that get us out of the engagement, you know, lots of like bluff posturing and gesturing and going away and like just refusing to engage.
And what would you like instead? What how would you like the outcome to be with these people that would?
I'd like to have a human, compassionate dialogue where all of our ideas, thoughts and feelings were welcome, and having the difference or the different skill sets didn't mean that we were automatically at kind of like a loggerheads. It feels like I would love there to be a compassionate, warm space where it didn't feel like an arena where we were two people entering and only one will leave. So to like change the language of that, I'd like it to feel a bit more like a respectful exchange and exploration.
An exploration,
yeah,
rather than an argument.
Yes. Yes.
This is all good stuff, Enna. You know, and sometimes this can come down to frames with people, to frame wars with people. There are some kinds of people where they have to be right, even when they, you know, even when they know they're not. Sometimes it's, you can't really win a discussion with someone on logic alone. There's an emotional impact on it, and there, you know, without wishing to call names or anything like that, there are certain types of people who will just disagree with everything that you say, regardless of what it is that you say. In NLP speak, we call those people mismatchers or polarity responders. Whatever you suggest, no, that won't work, or whatever. But once you realize how these people speak, you can actually pace their experience by saying, no, I don't think you'd understand this, or I don't think I don't think this would work for you. Because you're beginning from the opposite end of the spectrum. And if you think, no, I don't think this is going to work for you, you know, somehow, no, forget I said that. And straight away they'll want to disagree with you, because they'll be thinking, well, what do you mean it won't work for me? I know, I know better. It's very, unless you're practiced and experienced with dealing with people, meeting with them where they're at like that, particularly if it's someone you know and it's someone that you're close to, it's very, very difficult to be able to.
Yeah, thank you for just acknowledging that is even more difficult when there's that intimacy there. It's even more difficult when there's
absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Yeah, I'll give you an example of that. And there's a certain person in my life that that when I practice my hypnotic voice and I start speaking with a slow rhythmic breath on there, she seems to think that it's forced, and it's you know, because it doesn't meet her model of how I speak normally. She thinks I'm being false and facetious, and it's very hard to deal with that. So when it's someone you're close to, sometimes it's better to to just to pace their experience and neither disagree nor agree with them on that. Sometimes what I found, particularly in relationships and things like that, is that there's this wonderful word that comes up. It's maybe. Because that neither agrees nor disagrees.
I'm writing that one down, Jay.
Yeah, me too, Alan. Scribbly, scribbly. Yeah.
By a long period of silence, because it, at least it, I speak with the
Much experience and wisdom, yes.
countless arguments that I've had, and sometimes I'll just go,
practice, yeah.
maybe, and then I'll just keep quiet and see.
No, I love it, Giles, because it gets me out of one of my traps. I'm like a fucking meaning making missile. I'm like, but what does that mean? What does that mean? Clarity. And like keeping maybe in the, in the side, in the wing, feels really like it frees me up from that space of needing to like, but let's go
exactly.
we understand. Let's go till we agree. Like maybe
not. Yeah, exactly. That works well. So what as you're able to get a more compassionate dialogue that's warmer and less defensive, and as people that allows people to begin to explore, to see this as a discussion, as an exploration rather than an argument. What will that do for you that's important to you?
Oh goodness, it will help me to be able to collaborate with people that I would choose to collaborate with without having to like betray myself in the process. If there was a genuine compassionate exploration, then my thoughts, ideas and feelings would be welcome. Theirs would be too. And then we wouldn't be stuck in that expending energy, butting heads about something that I'm not even sure if we need to agree on.
Yeah.
how to collaborate without losing our values, our integrity, our,
Positive. Well, it sounds like that magical words will take you a long way towards achieving.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe. There you go. So, Elijah, welcome to this this meeting this evening. As you can see, running this a little bit more freestyle than we have been.
Love it. Keep going.
We've not been we've not been doing and probably won't do very much on stories tonight. I sent Enna the stories that I used last week, including the donkey and the lion and the tiger, which I still think is an ace story. So we could, so that's what we get. Elijah, is that anything you would want to take away from this meetup tonight that would empower you? And
I just really enjoy spending time with you guys and offering my 2 cents. I would like perhaps I have spent a fair bit of time recently thinking about how I make decisions and coming to a realization that often I will make decisions based on what I think other people want rather than what I want. And I would like to, if it's possible, I mean, it might not be possible in one evening, but it might, who knows? I would like to, I don't know, learn to do things more for myself than, I don't mean to become like selfish or something, but, to put my own needs and wants first and still help other people and contribute the way I have been, but not to my own detriment, because I think I've been making life harder for myself than it has to be by taking on pressures that I didn't have to take on.
Yeah. So I can completely understand that. So get to be able to put your own wants and needs first rather than to the and to be able to help others, but not at the expense of putting your own needs detriment.
Yeah, I think I help others pretty well already, but I do it at my own expense, and I end up often not getting what I want out of it, and that can leave me sometimes a little bit bitter. And I don't want to be bitter, you know what I mean? I want to just be happy-go-lucky and just kind of enjoy each moment and just kind of, you know, waft my way through life smiling, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, you're telling my story. Here, Elijah, I think we've got to help each other out along.
Yeah, I think with what that's happened to us all, I know big time for me as well. You actually get sucked into something, and then suddenly you realize somewhere down the line that like your values have kind of gone or been hidden.
Mm-hmm. How did I get involved in this again?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens so many times. It reminds me of that meme. I don't know whether you've seen it on Facebook. That sometimes that goes around that says, "Make sure that when you're saying yes to someone else, that you're not really saying no to yourself." And
like it.
You know, that is so true, and that's something I'm particularly guilty of. Inherently a people pleaser in this.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of where I'm coming at this as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I don't want to become destructive or anything and just become, do you know what I mean? Like, there's no one like, aha, it's my way or the highway and all that kind of stuff. But there should be a better balance. I think balance is a good word. Like, there should be a better balance between having empathy and just becoming like a rug that people walk all over and take advantage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, you don't want people to use.
I want to kind of find that line where it is. It's almost an exercise in setting boundaries, maybe, and defending those boundaries. You know? Yeah. That's kind of what I would like to work on for myself.
Yeah,
I hear you.
That's deep. That's deep. I'm sure we can come. We can do something to strengthen your boundaries tonight. It really is about boundaries, isn't it? And people will only do to you what you will allow them to get away with. But because of our nature as human beings to what's the word, to succumb to or to subvert to small requests once. Once you give someone a concession once, you become more predisposed to do it the next time and the next time, and then you get this law of compounding goes in and it comes into effect, and before you know where you are, you think, how the hell, as Alan said, did I end up in that situation?
Actually, Giles, now you've described that, is that not a bit like these people are experts in pacing and leading without ever had any formal training or anything in it?
Yeah, there are some people that
because
are
they can like say something and get you to agree, and then it's like, okay, I'll go along with that, and then the next thing, and then go along with that, and then the next thing, go along with that.
That's exactly what it is, or certainly a form of it. For Enna's benefit, I'll go through what we said on our telephone conversation earlier. I've been reading some of read this book by FBI hostage negotiator called Chris Voss, which is a very, very interesting read. It's called Never Split the Difference. And in his training, he identifies 3 different kinds of yes that we have in a dialogue. You know, there's a confirmational yes, which is like the maybe sort of thing, or yes, I'm going to agree with you on that. You know, it's an agreement that you have on that. Then there's the commitment yes, which is emphatic. Yes, you've tricked me into saying yes, but I'm going to go along with it for commitment and consistency. because I don't, otherwise I'm going to contradict myself for all the other things that I've agreed to previously along. It's a little bit like that question that Kenrick asked. Have you managed to stop beating your wife yet? Answer yes or no. So, sort of thing. If they answer no, it implies that they are beating her up, and if they answer yes, it implies that they were doing it before. So whichever, it's like those sort of questions. So when you trick someone into answering yes and into that situation, and then there's there's the counterfeit yes, which is yes, fuck you, just go away. I'm just gonna agree, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Is that
really familiar with that one?
Yeah.
Yep, that one comes up a fair amount. Fine then, have it your way. Like, no, that's not a victory. I will not take that.
I know. Be reasonable. Everybody's entitled to my opinion. Be reasonable. Do it my way.
I can see that really tickles you, Giles. It's nice to see you laugh, darling.
So that's the different types of yeses that we can get with that. And coming back to what you were saying, Enna, about dealing with people that have with refusal to explore, which is it's prejudice, really, isn't it? It's contempt without prior investigation when you look at things that way. Another thing which Chris Voss advocates is beginning a conversation with no, beginning asking
why.
Because people are used to saying, people don't have a problem with saying no. They're used to it, especially argumentative, especially people that don't like to, the people that like to disagree.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my. So it's actively in the relationship called devil's advocate. Like, I'll literally argue the opposite of whatever you argue. Like, when do we get to know the content of your head and heart? When do we get to know what you actually think and feel? What your values are? Like, if you're constantly devil's advocate, then like, when do I get to the content of your own head, heart, and thought pattern, like, and your beliefs? And it's like, oh, but I see the wisdom in like doing these kinds of experiments with, like, in a workspace, or but then when it comes into the intimacy, like, ooh, there's so much emotional baggage there. And
yeah. In personal relationships, I would imagine we'll get to this before the end of the evening. We can look at some techniques of reflexive and reflective sort of listening. With that, that people like myself and Elijah will commonly call an echo technique. Maybe you've come across this before, but I think it might be worth us doing a little bit of practice.
I'm absolutely happy to have a refresher and see what emerges out of that. That sounds beautiful. Thank you.
With that, particularly when you're dealing with people that are in the disagreement frame, because sometimes when you repeat what they just said back to them and echo it back, and then they realize the stupidity of what they've just said. It kind of, gets them to think about it.
Yeah. I often get that moment met with, why are you holding me to something I said 10 seconds ago? Because I'm sorry, I didn't realize you transitioned so much in 10 seconds that you have a whole new philosophy at your disposal now. Sorry. Why are you holding me to something I said 10 seconds ago?
Yes. Yeah, that sounds like so.
Thank you for the eye rolls, Elijah. That's what it feels like, man.
Well, that's kind of how I would feel if someone, I say, okay, well, let's stay in now then, and they won't win that one, because they don't want to. Do you know what I mean? The moment you hold them to where they are now,
Mhm.
then they're going to want to go back to 10 seconds ago.
Mhm.
So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing.
That's how it feels. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, when we get into it more, I don't mind adding a little bit of my 2 cents. Giles, I was thinking a little bit about do you know what David said about the 3 different types of resistance? And
so this is reactance. Are you talking about reactance and inertia? Or,
yeah, reactance would be like the 4th one. So there was we resist anything that, what was it? Anything that goes against our self-image.
Yeah.
It goes against what other people might think
about
us, and things that go against what we believe to be true. Those are like the 3 things we inherently resist. So anything that changes or threatens how we see ourselves,
self-image,
right? Anything that threatens how we think other people will see us, and anything that goes against what we currently believe as being true. Yeah, so we naturally resist any of those things. And then the 4th one is it's not really a resistance, they call it reactance. And reactance it's automatic pushback against any form of influence that was not invited. So like if someone like, you know, like if you go into a shop and you get the sense that the salesman is trying to sell you something, you just want him to go away. Like you'd not buy it just because he's trying so hard to sell it. Do you know what I mean? Like people have that kind of natural pushback. So if someone feels like you're trying to influence them or trying to manipulate them in some way, then they're just going to shut you down completely. And I think that's kind of that's what I thought of when you were first saying like, that, you know, you can't always get through, because the moment you start asking those types of questions that might go to a deeper place, they just shut you down because they might think that you're trying to influence them. And so the way to counteract that one, I'm not going to go into all the other 3, but the way to counteract that last one is to make sure that the other person knows that they have choice, and that you're not telling them to do anything in particular. So you can say things like, you don't have to, but for instance, what if, right? Or suppose, these kinds of little phrases like what if, suppose, there's no obligation. Throwing these little 1 and 2 word bits into your sentences keeps the other person aware that you're not forcing them. Yeah. Like, so if I wanted to ask someone about their feelings, I would say, I was curious how something like that makes you feel. I mean, you don't have to tell me, obviously, if you don't want to, but if you wanted to, you know, we could talk about that. And I would say it that way, just as plainly as that. And by doing that, what you're saying is, you don't have to tell me, but there is an invitation here whenever you're ready. Yeah. And then that kind of puts the responsibility on them. And it's like, the way I liken it to, like, if I was in a nightclub dancing with like a woman that I've never met, if I get too close, she's going to back away because she doesn't know me and I'm invading her space. But if I like extend my hands like this and pull her into my space, is rather than me going into her space, if I pull her into my space, that's much less intimidating actually, because she doesn't have to walk forward. She could just stop. Right? So it's like, there's a difference between, it's basically an invitation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Over saying this is how it is, it's saying, well, this is how it could be if that's what you want. Yeah. The other thing,
I do a much better job of that when I'm like in a good place in myself. Like I see me having those kind of conversations when I'm in a good place myself. So thank you for just like echoing.
Sometimes if especially if it's someone really close, we are emotionally attached as well to the situation, and so
Yes.
it becomes because you just want so badly for it to be working nicely that you sometimes lose sight of things. The other phrase, sorry Giles, I don't mean to take up too much
No,
time.
carry on. I'll interrupt you when
The other phrase is or not, right? And this is how you deal with polarity responders, what Giles was calling polarity responders or mismatchers, who, you know, they disagree with everything. The mismatcher is the kind of person that, like, if you say, oh, it's sunny today, isn't that nice? And they'll say, yeah, but it's too hot. Oh, so it's too hot, is it? Yeah, but it's not bad, really. Like, no matter what you say, they're going to disagree with you, right? If you feel you're in that space with someone and they're just disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing, or devil's advocate or something, you can always, every time you suggest something, just add or not to the end. So you could say, oh, you know, we could sit down and talk about it if you like, or not, right? Or you know, you're welcome to cry on my shoulder anytime you like, or not, right? Because once you add the or not, there's nothing for them to disagree with, right? You've given them the yes and the no, right? And so there's nothing for them to kind of, there's no comeback to that. And if it's someone who's like really, really deflecting, then you really emphasize the or not. I mean, we can, I'm ready to talk about this. And whenever you're ready, we can talk about it or not. Right. And when you do it that way, it's almost like it puts the response, because you really said or not, it's putting the responsibility back on them. Because if they want resolution, they're going to be, well, no, why should it be or not? I actually want to resolve this situation. And that's going to kind of bring them forward. So I think the or not is very, very strong, very powerful. Use it.
Thank you, babes. Yeah. I'll have a little play with that. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I'm nodding my head.
Negating generally helps with that. You know, you don't have to believe this will work. Just give it a try. Yeah. Judge for yourself.
Doing my same old isn't getting me what I want, so I'm happy to try something else.
Yeah, there's uses of not, right? So if you add a not, but then say what you want. So if you want someone to agree with you, all you have to say is, listen, you don't have to agree with me.
Or you may not agree.
You've added a not, like when the don't have to. So don't is a do not, right? So that's the not. But then the suggestion is agree with me. So you don't have to agree with me. And if you do it with a little half nod, you don't have to agree with me. Like, watch my face, Enna, right? You don't have to agree with me with that little half nod, yeah, right? That sends a very subtle signal, right? Because people, even if they're not into body language, they pick up on that stuff, right? So you can say things like, you know, I don't know if you feel like talking today or not, but that's okay whenever you're ready, right? You've put like layers in now. So I don't know, meaning, yeah, how could I know? Do you know what I mean? It's inside your head, it's not my head, right? And then there's the suggestion, if you feel like talking, and then there's the takeaway or not, right? So then it's completely up to them and there's no pressure from you.
Yeah.
Right? It's just an invitation. So using, like Giles said, using negations. Now, obviously, you don't have to do all of it. Just, you know, sprinkle one or two in wherever you remember. And if you don't, that's fine, because in the beginning, we're all practicing these things. You know, just little things like or not, or I'm not sure, or maybe was another really good one, Giles. I do agree with maybe. That's really good because it's neither yes nor no, right?
You can stop someone in their tracks.
These kinds of things, it kind of leaves the situation or the thing or the interaction, it leaves it open-ended. Yeah. Rather than saying, this is my position, you're saying, what is the position? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it allows movement. Whereas if you take a certain space and say, well, no, this is where I stand,
Mhm.
then in essence, you can't, there's no movement anymore, because you've chosen a certain, like if this was the frame, right? Or if this, like where my box is the frame, and you chose to be the left half with the yellow background, then that the only space the other person can take is the right half with the black background. But if you stay fluid and like, oh, I don't know, maybe, right? Then they are free to choose whichever space inside the frame they are comfortable with. And as soon as they become comfortable, that's when they'll open up.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They will open up when they're comfortable. If
Yeah.
they're not comfortable, they'll deflect you. Nope, not interested. Nope, I'm watching the telly. Nope, I'm busy. I've got a phone call to make, right? But the moment they feel at ease, because you're giving them choice, because you're not forcing anything, then they're likely to say, oh, okay. All right, maybe I'll give it a go.
Mhm. Yeah. Beautiful.
And asking them questions that they can say no to as well. There's another one of these Chris Voss things that he starts off with a cold call in a situation. You know, when you call someone, when someone calls you to make a cold call, they want to sell you some charity thing or the other, and you think, well, you just go away, and they say, is it okay to talk now? So what he does instead is he says, is now a bad time to talk? And he's eliciting them, you know, they're so used to saying no that they're going to say no anyway. And when they say no, what they've really meant is yes.
It's like saying to the other person, do you want to keep fighting? Right? Now, if the other person says yes, then they're just an arsehole. Sorry, but that's just facts. Yeah. Most people don't want to fight for the sake of fighting. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right. And so because people are savvy to being manipulated, and they think that you're trying to get them to say yes. So like Giles says, instead of getting them to say yes, get them to say no. So, oh, do you want to keep fighting? No. That's a no, but it still agrees with you. Right? So by flipping the question the other way and asking about something that's maybe not as positive, and they disagree by saying no, actually they're agreeing to the positive, which is what you wanted in the first place.
Yeah, I'm also thinking while you're talking about how empowering it might be for somebody who feels a little bit needing to be defensive in a space, to be able to use their assertive no straight off the bat. It kind of invites them into like, you're a decisioning beast in this conversation. I have invited in your no really early on, and we're okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right? And giving them that
Mhm.
is allowing them to feel like they have a say
Yeah.
in what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you're going to have a difficult conversation with someone, it's easier. You can set the frame in the beginning by saying, you know, you're not going to like what I'm about to say. Before you deliver the message, you're probably not going to like what I've got to say. Now, you know, things have been difficult between us, but we're all in this together, or whatever the message is that you're going to
insert message here.
yeah, literally. If you say you're not going to like this, if they're a natural polarity responder, they're going to think, well, why am I not going to like this? And if they're a normal person, they'll be thinking, uh-oh, this is going to be serious.
Mhm.
And then when you give them the message, if that message is much, when you deliver it, it's never going to be as serious in their minds as they think it's going to be before you give it. Just by labeling it, by saying, I don't think you're going to like what I've got to say right now, but here's what it is. It kind of disempowers it, because you've set the frame up front. So anything less than sort of downright Armageddon is going to be a bonus for them in that context. The worst they can say is, well, yes, you're right, I'm not going to like it, or whatever. But yeah, and you can say, well, that's interesting. How did you know? Because I haven't even told you yet.
Right on. Juicy stuff to be thinking about.
Do I see stuff to be thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Juicy, I think she said. You had juicy.
Juicy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not do you see?
Right.
Juicy. That's very London, isn't it? Juicy. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Juicy stuff. So
Yeah, I grew up in a very small village, but I went to like my formative years in Croydon, which is a very outer borough of London.
I know
It definitely like rubbed off on me in some areas, but it's really helpful in some areas of my life to bring out my inner Croydon.
Croydon, yeah.
Right,
Wonderful
Giles,
place.
over
I
to
drove
you.
the number 75 bus there last
Did
year.
you? Did you?
Yes, so
Right
East
on.
Croydon.
So you're
Wow.
familiar with the patch,
What an exciting place!
right?
It's one of the few places that are actually worse than Basingstoke. I have to say there. Actually, I think Croydon might even be slightly better than Basingstoke, because at least you've got Beckenham just up the road there, which is quite a pleasant place from what I can remember of it. So where do we go from where do we go from here? I'm wondering whether we should talk about echoing in a conversation.
Sounds good to me. Sounds interesting.
Talk about echoing.
Yeah, talk about echoing. Thank you, Elijah.
You both just did that, yeah.
Did we cover that with you before, Enna, or?
Sorry, the internet connection just dumped out. I'm back now. But
You're back
you
now.
asked the
You're back
question.
in the lab. Are you familiar with using echo technique?
Oh, there you go. I've just understood. Am I familiar with using the echo technique? Not very.
Okay, not very. So echoing.
On internet, you can do it.
Oh, it will come back when it's ready. I'm sure it will. Echoing, for those of you that are new to it, it's literally reflexive or reflective communication. So it's giving people their words back in the exact same order and sequence that they left their mouths in. Coming back to what Elijah said about the 4 levels of resistance that we had. People resist anything that goes against their identity or what they believe in, or what they don't believe to be their own words. But people will never resist their own words. I've been doing that to you and Alan all evening since we started. Alan would probably have picked up on that more than you did. That's why I was writing so much. Why I was writing so much down in that. So you're on the back foot. That was one that when you don't initiate a conversation with someone, it's very easy when someone says something. you know, when he said you're on the back foot, it would be very easy for me to say, so it feels like you're disempowered then, or something like that. And those and feeling disempowered was not the words, that was not Alan's meaning, that was my meaning that I assigned on that. You know, the exact words that he gave to me were being on the back foot in this scenario, and they'll have a specific meaning to him inside of there. And you'll notice at one point I said to him, you know what it, you know, and I said, you know, it sucks when you're on the back foot, doesn't it? Look at his eyes now. As I said that, because not only
yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Not only is it his criteria that I've elicited with that, and those are his trance word. It's also telling me that it's an away from thing, because he's moving away from pain with that, rather than it's you know, that's why I try to get you to move from responding to where you said to get to where you want to be and what you want and what you want to do. And those were your words again.
They were.
With that, which is more positive than being on the back, which is.
I get what you were asking now, Giles. I see your point, and it's true. It's true. Being on the back foot, where you're like at the kind of mercy of other people, to being in control and deciding, and having choices. Yeah.
So it's important to have control, because it gets you out of being at the mercy of other people and always responding, and allows you to decide where you want to be and what you want to do. And when you can do that, and you're able to express that ability fully and completely, what will that do for you? What will that give you that's important to you?
Freedom, I think.
Freedom.
Yes.
Now we're really heading on. That's quite. I don't think.
Wow, I love that word.
Yeah. Well, we could go a little bit. We could probably go a little notch higher than that, but we're getting to a pretty high criteria there with that.
To a single word, I like it.
Yeah. That's when you know when you're starting to get to people's highest criteria with that. So and when you have that freedom, what does that mean to you? What does that?
It means that I can decide for myself. I'm not subject to anyone else's rules. I'm in control, basically.
You're in control. You're in control. And when you have that sense of freedom and control, where you can decide what you want to do, you're not in anyone else's control. You decide what you want to do. And that's a great place to be. So yes. I'm not going to expand on that. I'm sure Elijah would be able to expand upon that.
Do you see him not, even when he's not saying something verbally, he's like nodding like that.
Yeah, of course.
As he's writing, he's like, yeah. That's an unconscious yes.
Yeah.
Right? That's an unconscious yes. The thing about echoing, right, is what Giles was saying, is there's no room. If you give someone back their exact words, there's no way of misinterpreting what they say. You can't, like, if someone says to me, I'm afraid of heights, and I say, oh, so you suffer from vertigo? I say, no, I'm afraid of heights, motherfucker. Like, what the hell? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's, for me, fear of heights must be, it means vertigo, but that's not what they said, right? So, or if someone says, oh, I really want to feel more confident, And I say, okay, so you like to have that self-assurance and stuff. No, I don't need self-assurance. I need to feel confident, right? But if I just repeat what they said back to me, there's no way for me to lose them in the communication because I'm saying what they said. And so
you can't argue with it either.
They can't misinterpret what I'm saying because I'm using their language, right? And so here's the thing about echoing, right? Obviously, you don't want to be a parrot and just repeat everything the other person says, because that's just going to, if anything, that's going to break rapport with them, right? But when you listen to people speak, there will be certain words that that person leans on, right? Maybe they tilt their head as they say it. Maybe with Alan, when he said in control, he did this one, he kind of did this gesture, like, I'm more in control. You know, he's like in control. So because there's a gesture that kind of goes with it, I know, oh, that's a word I can echo. Right? So there'll be certain words that they lean on, whether it's with a tone change or a head tilt or a gesture, or maybe they take a breath before they say it. Like if you say, oh, what's been bothering you? And they go, all sorts of stuff, really. You know that if you were to say all sorts of stuff, even though you yourself don't know what that stuff is, they know, and they're then likely to expand on that because it's, you know, they'll fill in the gaps for you. And the more they talk, the more your ammunition, if you like, you get to echo back and to ask questions. And so when it's your, like, you don't ever echo while, you know, like if like you can do this might go, it's like one step further, is you can do non-verbal echoing, right? So with Alan, when he did that gesture, that in control, right? I don't even have to say the word in control. I say, Alan, you know, when you have that feeling, right, when you just, you know, you're not at the mercy of anyone else because you know, so he knows what that means, right? But you don't copy people's gestures while they're talking, and you don't copy people's words while they're talking. Don't interrupt them. But when they've said what they're going to say and there's now silence and it's your turn to speak, then you say what you want to say, but using their language. And that is really powerful because the other person will feel understood. And when someone feels like they're being understood, then they are more likely, again, to open up more, to feel more comfortable, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, this person's actually paying attention to me. This person's actually gives a shit about what I'm saying, right? And that is like, attention is like, giving someone your attention is like the best gift you could give anyone. You know, if you give them your undivided attention, people love it, you know, because you're focused on them and they like to have the spotlight on them just for a little bit so that they can get all of their shit out that they've been holding in. Do you know what I mean? And even if you see me when I was getting all the shit out like this,
very
gesture, right?
Right. Yeah.
So when you're talking to me now, you could even do that one if you're talking about the shit that I need to get out, like that kind of thing. I notice sometimes myself doing these gestures, but a lot of times you're just paying attention to what the other person's saying and what kind of, you know, if they're doing this kind of thing, if they're doing a head tilt, and do you know what I mean? And little things that will give you the clues which words to echo and which ones to ignore, because they will go along with something. They either go along with a tone shift or a breath or, you know, a change in posture, or maybe they'll pause before they say something, or like I said, like some kind of hand gesture or something. Those are the words that you pay attention to. Those are the words that you echo.
Beautiful. Thank you for the clarity.
Already made a lot of notes.
Yeah. So
The one thing about this echoing, and I will say, is that I've watched some of the David Snyder videos and things, but I'm still not clear how I can use that in a conversation because it seems to go too fast for me to think about.
it seems to go too fast for you to think about.
Yes.
In what way?
Just that when you're talking to someone, I find I'm quite unaware of the exact words that we use to be able to like use it back.
I can understand that, and not being able to be aware of those words and to be able to use them back in the same order that they're given to you, because we're not trained as from when we're small children. We are taught to paraphrase. We're taught that it's bad English to literally parrot phrase, which is what Richard Bandler calls echo technique. He calls it paraphrasing, and instead of paraphrasing, we're taught to sort of jumble the words up and put our own interpretation and spin on it.
Exactly. More like what Elijah said before, where you'll like say something completely different, which might even antagonize people because it's what they mean at all.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a reason why we're actually taught like that in schools, if someone has a vested interest in creating confusion.
You're right, actually. It's kind of like sticking a knife in positive conversation or positive energy sometimes, I think.
Well, it's like the QWERTY keyboard, isn't it? If you think about that, the keyboard used to have A, B, C, D, E, F, G on the front, didn't it? And the typewriter, the typists were typing too quickly, so this guy called QWERTY came along and designed a keyboard and jumbled all the keys around, so they had to really think about it.
Didn't know that.
So there's a lot of that sort of stuff that's gone on throughout that's gone on throughout history. I agree. You don't have to echo everything someone says, but it will become, the more you listen and the more tuned in you become to someone's body language and persona, you'll begin to notice as you do this more and more, the gestures, like Elijah says, the certain looks on the face, the sighs, maybe they might go, something like that, or they'll start scratching their head like Elijah is now at the moment, and things like that. Just little nuances that people have and little idiosyncrasies about how they communicate. And if it's something, you'll notice if you're engaging in dialogue with someone and asking them, well, you're not asking them questions. When you echo someone, if you do it right, if you raise your voice, you've given them their words back, and that word becomes a question. It's so much easier, it's so much more natural than asking what's important about X or whatever.
So much easier?
So much easier? Well, yes.
Right? It's almost like he feels compelled to clarify, because it's like you by raising your tone at the end, it becomes a question. Yeah. So like feel the difference between, I'm going to say the same thing twice. Once I'll go up at the end, once I'll go down at the end. You tell me which one sounds more like an instruction, which one sounds more like a question, or I'm not sure. If I say, would you like to go into a trance? Or if I say, would you like to go into a trance? Do you feel the difference between the two?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The first one, go into a trance, it's almost like it doesn't instill confidence in the other person that I know what I'm doing. Right? And you can do that with other people. Like if someone comes to you and says, oh, I feel anxious all the time. You say, all the time? It's almost like it inserts a little bit of, are you sure? Kind of into it. Do you know what I mean? And then they'll have to expand. Well, obviously not all the time, but often. Oh, so you often feel anxious, right? Again, with the up, feel anxious, right? And then they're gonna give you a little bit more. And every time they give you a little bit more, you have a little bit more to echo and send back their way. It's like playing tennis. They'll throw the ball towards you and you hit it back, and then they give you a bit more and you hit it back again until you have all the information you need.
Well, one of the tricks to doing that and knowing which bits to echo is, if you can't remember the exact flow of the conversation, unless you're someone that's skilled at this like Elijah is, just take what's the last few words that they say in a sentence, and just pay attention to any words that they use more than once. Like in your case, Alan, you used the word control. I think I counted at least twice that you used it.
All right. Yes.
Maybe
Word for me. Yes.
maybe more than one. You know, and having that control means being able to decide where you want to be and what you want to do, and with who you want to do it with, presumably. Have you? So coming back to yours, Enna. You've been having difficulty dealing with defensive people, or people that have that refuse to engage into an exploration of a subject, or even discussion. How does that? When they get defensive with you like that, how does that affect you?
Does it affect me?
How does it, do you feel?
I'm tired.
Tired.
I feel tired. I feel weary to the bone, like kind of heavy. Ugh.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy. And how would you like to feel instead?
Curious.
Curious?
How would I like to feel like curious? Welcome. I'd like to feel welcome, curious and welcome.
Welcome. So when you feel curious, I'm curious now. What does what's it like when you're curious? And
what's it like when I'm curious?
yeah.
Oh, expansive.
Expansive.
What's it like when I feel curious? Engaging. Yeah.
And engaging.
Yeah.
Engaging. And what's important to you about being engaging?
What's important to me about engaging?
Engaging, yeah.
Important to me about engaging. Connection for me is the stuff of life.
Connection. It's the stuff of life.
Stuff of life.
Stuff of life. So if you could, I'm wondering, when you're dealing with this this person that you're having difficulty, if you could take a breath for a few seconds and close your eyes and just imagine what it feels like when you feel curious, and bring forth that feeling inside you, so in a way that allows you to be more expansive and engaging, and to be able to express your ideas from a place of curiosity and connection, even playfulness. Picture yourself, picture the other person in that zone. Imagine just what that would be like. When you've got that, let me know.
Oh, it's there, Giles. Thank you.
What does it feel like?
Beautiful.
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 What's different? To how it was before? What's the first? What can you notice that's different?
It's different for me. My shoulders are down.
Shoulders are down.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they now?
Closer to my heart.
Closer to your heart.
They were a bit up here by my head and my mind, but they've settled right on down, closer to my heart.
Brilliant.
So you're in your heart center.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you, I wonder if you can change if you can change yourself into that state
Mm-hmm.
just moments before you have an interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how you could, is there some way, is there a color associated with that feeling that we could use to anchor that feeling?
Gold.
Old.
Gold.
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 I want you to just imagine a glowing ball of that golden energy floating just above your head. Notice how your feelings shift. It's that ball of golden energy begins to grow, begins to glow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all parts in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket of connection, of expansive and engaging communication, of safety, of empowerment, shielding your body, shielding your mind from all negativity, whilst at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything you most want, everything you most need, everything that makes you playful, everything that makes you curious, in an ever-expanding, infinite and unlimited supply. When you know you've got that, breathe in that golden color. Let it fill up your entire being, like water fills a bottle, like fluid fills a test tube, like hot air fills a balloon. Anchor it in so fully and completely that no force in the universe could turn it off or take it away. And when you know you've got that, take an extra blast, take an extra breath of that wonderful golden energy, placing it back into your heart. Let it reverberate and resonate through every cell, through every tissue, through every fiber and every part of your mind, body, and spirit, washing away any negative voices, real or imagined, filling you up with enlightenment, empowerment in an infinite, ever-expanding and unlimited supply. And when you realize it's true, test it. Try to turn that good feeling off. Notice what happens instead. Go on, turn it off. See if you can bring that icky feeling of defensive and defensive and unwillingness to engage back. Just what happens?
Well, I feel softer towards it.
Softer.
Yeah.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is it bothering you right now?
Not very much.
Not very much. 2? Why not more?
Because it's too yummy here.
It's too yummy. Elijah, have you got any? Can you get her down to a 0?
Why not more? You said that's such a brilliant thing. So, okay, you want it to go to a 0? What as things are right now? What's the problem again?
Yes, I take your point.
But I mean, if there was, or if you could, you know, if you could perhaps imagine next time that you engage with someone or attempt to, and you know, maybe hallucinate how they might respond. Is there any problem now? Then How
Little
so? What is it?
It's that I am aware I'm in charge of what I bring, but I'm
And
not
that's
in
the
charge of
problem?
I'm not in charge of what the
Oh.
other person brings.
Is it a problem that you're not in charge of what they bring?
No, no.
Okay. So then what is it? What's that little thing?
Yeah, it's that little niggling doubt
Yeah.
that however much I dance the dance and love the love.
Oh, okay, okay. That little niggling one.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So I'm curious though, how do you even know that that little niggling one is there? How do you know that you have it?
A slight hesitancy, a hold back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hesitancy and hold back. Okay. And that's not good.
It's not what I would choose.
It's not what you would choose.
Not what I would
Okay.
choose.
Okay. Okay. So do you know what?
Mhm.
That was the hardest part of what we were doing, what we're doing right now. What you just did, that was the hardest part. So it only gets better from now on. Okay. So that's the way you've been.
Mhm.
How would you like to be different? From having that niggling, hesitating feeling.
Yeah.
Could you open your eyes for me, please?
Yes, my love.
Yeah, thank you. How would you like to be different?
Yeah, I was shutting my eyes because I was trying to like go inside, but
Yeah, yeah, I know. But I
also
also kind of want you to figure it out while you're present.
yeah,
A
I
little
hear
bit.
you.
Yeah.
How would I like to feel different?
Yeah. How would you like to be different?
I would like to have some trust that whatever outcome came, that I will handle it, even if it doesn't go how I hope it will go.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That whatever outcome comes,
Mhm,
you have a trust
mhm,
that you can handle it.
mhm,
You see, the thing about trust is most people seem to think that trust is when the other person or the other thing in the environment that you're engaging with does what you're expecting them to do,
mhm,
right? However, that's not trust,
mhm,
because real trust would mean that it doesn't matter what they do.
mhm,
If you think about it, if trust is conditional, then is it really trust? So imagine what real trust is like when you don't even have to question something like, do you know that the sun's going to come up tomorrow?
I do.
You trust that?
I do.
Do you ever have to question it?
Nope.
Okay. And do you trust that your name is Enna?
I do.
Do you ever have to question that?
I do sometimes.
Oh, really? Okay. So what's something that you never have to question, that you know? What would something like that be?
Mhm.
You don't have to tell me if you don't want.
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
thinking that I'm here.
That you're here.
I'm
Okay.
here.
So you know that you are wherever you are in any given moment.
Mhm.
And you don't need to verify it in any way. You just trust that it is, right? Did you hear that last part?
You're back now, but I didn't catch that
Okay.
last
So I
part.
said you don't need to verify it in any way. You trust that you are where you are. So you don't have to verify it. Can you hear me?
Do I have to verify that I am here?
Yeah.
It's in and out, mate.
The connection is in and out.
So no, I don't have to verify that. Yes,
Yeah. So you trust
Yeah.
that.
the connection is in and out. It's not a problem.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you trust
do.
that. Yeah, excellent. And what's that like when you know that you can trust it? What's that like when you know you can trust it?
Clear.
It's clear. That's right. And so what's it if you had clarity that you didn't necessarily need to know about that little bit that the other person was bringing, and you were clear that you're able to trust at least the part that you know you're bringing, would that be better?
I think it would.
How so?
I think it would free both of us up from the perpetual cycle that isn't serving us.
And what's it like when you're free from that cycle?
Curious, expansive, playful.
There we go. So we're back to curious again, right? So the question is, can you be curious long enough to become clear about what you don't know?
Yeah, peaceful.
Yeah. And trust that as long as you are here, no bad can happen if you have good intention. Right? So think about it now. Okay, it's down to a 2, and there was that little niggling thing, but all you're doing is trusting that you are here to get some clarity on what it is you don't know. And how is this feeling different from before?
Well, I feel like I'm in an exploring space as well now,
Right.
rather than a facilitation space or a leading space. Like I'm now exploring, co-exploring.
Right. And that's the key thing. What you just said there is co-exploring. It is a cooperative process. You're a team. And the problem is not the other person, nor is it you. The problem is just the problem. And you can team up with the other person and together wage war on that problem. But they're not the problem. You already know that. It might be something they have, but it's not who they are. Right? So when you think about it now, how do you feel?
A little bit heartbroken.
A little bit heartbroken.
Yeah.
How so?
Oh, because it's just like all that edge has come off it, and it's in that soft, tender place now. You know, like
So was heartbroken is not necessarily a bad thing, you're saying?
No.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
For me, heartbreaking is like a space that lets the light in. You know.
Right.
Coming back
and you
from
can
the shell.
and you can trust that light will continue to be let in. Right? If you cooperate with the other person so that together you can become clear about what neither of you know yet. Can you not? That's right. That's very good. What you just did there, that was very, very good. So now I'm going to bring you back to the beginning and say, what was the problem again? Annie? Are you sure?
Yes.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because I've removed some of the blockages.
Did you remove something are you really sure?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I will stop there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember that golden energy, ball of energy. You can bring that into your.
That can be the light you let in.
Beautiful.
So.
Thank you very much.
That was excellent. Did you hear that one?
Yeah.
That exhale, that was the one. That was excellent.
Your whole demeanor has shifted.
She's glowing.
An hour ago.
She's glowing. Really, she is.
Thank
honestly.
You. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Giles. Thank you, Alan, for witnessing.
You're on mute, Alan.
You're on mute, but I love your gestures.
You look like you were getting into it as well, Alan.
Oh no, it really was. It really was impressive to watch. And it's true, I could see the difference. I mean, it's fantastic.
Another value or a belief that I try to adopt when I'm dealing with people that sometimes I find difficult. It doesn't always work for me, but when I affirm this to myself, I say to myself, other people can and do, or they can do whatever they want to do. I control where my energy goes and flows, and I can choose, and I will choose what I learn from any given situation or circumstance with any individual. And something that you probably that you've mentioned to me before, which I do as well, is I know deep down, I assume that there is always a source of that at any given time I can access a source of infinite wisdom and potential in my life. And I know that with what you do with yoga practice and all that sort of thing, to hold that belief, because that can empower you in so many different ways. But sometimes it's as simple as thinking of a color and letting that color burn and glow brighter and brighter can change everything. And when you have Elijah's wisdom.
I really want to say thank you, Giles. That thing you said about doesn't matter what other people do or say, I control where my energy goes. That hit me quite deep just now. That was really good. Thank you.
But I try and put that into my meta frame. The last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been slipping, and I haven't been affirming it, and it showed, because before tonight, before you guys showed up, I was feeling a bit edgy and a bit low and a bit, losing my purpose and, in life, and just by engaging with you guys, it's brought me back to a place of grounding and neutrality, emotional neutrality, and just realizing that I'm not the only person that's suffering, or has been suffering, is quite empowering.
You see, Giles, I'm getting teary-eyed. Seriously, it really affected me a lot, what you said just now.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad you find it useful, because it does help.
It kind of goes to what I was saying earlier about what I wanted to have, still have empathy, but do things for myself and things like that. That's what it was like. I control where my energy goes. I really like that. I really like that a lot.
I use that sometimes when I'm talking to strangers. If I want to initiate a conversation with a complete stranger that I've never met before, their initial reaction might be, well, who the fuck are you? I don't know you. I don't know you from Adam. But by being able to emotionally ground myself and reframe that before I have before I initiate the dialogue, I come from a place of confidence and calmness, which radiates through to them. So what I've been taught to do, I don't know whether you do this, Elijah, or whether you do this, Enna, or Alan, but is to stand with your feet firmly on the ground, and imagine about 30% of your energy going from your thighs right the way down to your right the way to your feet, as if it's going into the ground, and then to switch on your peripheral vision. So you imagine there's a dot right in front of your eyes, but you expand your awareness so that you're looking all around from left to right. So you're not, while you're looking that person in the eye, you're not just looking at them in the eye, you're looking at all the space around you. It's not, and you're listening to all the conversations around you and behind you and all that sort of thing. And it's more difficult to do that with people that you know, because they may sense something different about you. But when you're in a hostile environment, like if you're in a bar, or if you're if you're in some kind of a meeting, or in some kind of a networking event, or something like that, where you're in a room full of strangers, or you find yourself having to give a presentation and to speak to people in a room full of strangers, it takes away some of that initial fear, that solar plexus feeling, that sort of icky feeling that you get when you know that you're going to have to deal with something that could be awkward. Because when you're doing all of that stuff, it's impossible not to be in now. All these thoughts, all these negative voices that spin around inside your head. If you're consciously expanding your awareness to the situation around you, you can't be thinking about your own thoughts. You can only be paying attention to what's going on right in front of you.
Yeah, because if your attention is external, then you can't be in your own head. Like if you go peripheral vision, and even though you're looking straight ahead, you can still notice what's happening on the sides. There's like, on one level, it's like, oh, whatever that's happening is just a small part of the overall context. That's one thing. So it's less of a big deal. But the other thing is, because all of my attention is like outside, then there's no room for like a negative self-talk inside my head, because I can't be in my head and paying attention outside at the same time. Yeah. It's like one or the other.
There's beautiful neuroscience to back up the idea that if we're in peripheral vision rather than laser focused vision, it helps us, like, we can only go into that peripheral vision if we're not in like an adversarial space. So like learning that peripheral vision can really help us, like at a like biochemical level, to give our body the feedback that this is a safe environment in which to do peripheral vision, to be with wide gaze, you know, to be like in that slightly wider field.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like peripheral vision. It's kind of trancey.
Well, it is, isn't it? It's a waking up time trance.
I didn't know this, but I've actually been doing some exercises. One of those things where I sneak into a quiet corner at work and do some exercises where I like practice moving my eyes left, right, keep your head still. 1, 2, 3, and then count to 10 to do it backwards and forwards. And I guess that's similar. You're like kind of expanding your vision because you're so used to just like staring straight ahead at the computer screen or whatever. Yeah. You're not really. Whereas this kind of trains you, and afterwards you do feel better. Like, wow, yeah.
Right on. And going back to what Elijah and Giles have shared about frames, like if we're only looking one certain way, we're only going to get a certain kind of information. But if we try an experiment of literally looking in a different way, peripheral, left, right, then you've like ruptured the usual frame, and you're all of a sudden in different possibilities for how a situation might be literally looked at. Use your eyes in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's been useful for you, Alan. Thank you for sharing.
No, it's when you mentioned that is actually interesting. One of those little exercises you pick up online and you think, yeah, I'm going to try that, because I do feel like it's quite restrictive to just gaze ahead, narrow.
That's the beautiful curiosity I was talking about. Oh, I'll have a little play with that, see what that's like. You know, like it's a very expansive mindset. Like, you know, proof's in the pudding. Like, I don't have to take your word for it. I can just try the technique and be like, does that work for me? Does it resonate with me?
Yeah.
Take what's useful, leave the rest.
See,
that's right about that.
That's real skepticism, right? True skepticism is, oh, I'll try it for myself and I'll find out. But people will say, oh, no, that stuff won't work with me. I'm too much of a skeptic. You're not a skeptic. You've already decided it's not going to work. Like you're what do you call it? You're a non-believer, right? And you've decided that you're a non-believer. If you're a real skeptic, you'd be willing to try it on and have a go, and before you make your mind up. Yeah. So a lot of times people say, "Oh no, I'm a skeptic." But no, you've already decided you're not a skeptic. You know, people seem to think that being skeptic is a bad thing, but it's not. It just means being curious. It just means not like, okay, I heard what other people had to say about it, but I'm going to find out for myself what it is, you know, because when someone else describes an experience, you know, like, oh, I did this thing. I sat in the corner in the office. I did this thing with my eyes where it went left. I kept my head straight and I went that way and then that way. And, you know, a few times. Like, I don't know what that's like. I know what he said it's like, but I've never tried it. So it's true. You get that little, oh, do you know what? I might try that myself. That little curious, skeptical part of me is like, I wonder if it would work well for me. I wonder if I could.
And that wonder is the beautiful thing. I wonder. Wonder what that might be like.
And you're right, you're not like guaranteeing that it would work for other people. Nope. Because sometimes when I'm at work, you like mention things and like people dismiss you because it's like, oh, that's rubbish because it didn't mean anything to me. But I'm never
it's like the same diet doesn't work for everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Don't believe me, just try it and see what happens. That's what you say.
But that's part of the fun, right? Is the discovery of what works for you. Rather than, like, you know, loads of people lost weight by cutting carbs, right? But when I cut carbs, I get really fucking antsy and start snapping at people because I'm angry, because I'm, you know, my blood sugar's all off the whack. But when I do fasting and just don't eat anything, I'm okay with that. Do you know what I mean? I could just not eat anything for a long time and then have a well-rounded meal with carbs and all. And I lost weight that way. And it was quite easy for me. And other people saying, well, no, I couldn't not eat 3 times a day because that's just really hard. But for me, that was easier than cutting out the carbohydrates. And so I found what worked for me. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to work for you, but it's another way and you're welcome to try it, kind of thing, you know? And that's part of the cool thing about it, is that when you learn more about yourself, in a strange way, you learn more about other people. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, the more you discover about yourself, the more you know what hurts and what is self-assuring and what is empowering and what is limiting, and what you might have a better understanding of what other people go through. Even if it's not the exact experience, you get a better, clearer picture because you know what it is to be human.
Man, know thyself.
Temple of Delphi, right? Adelphi. It's written there, man, know thyself.
That's so
they
true.
say God put the he put the answer in the last place you'll ever look, which was inside. Because man went to the moon and they went to the bottom of the ocean and they dug up every grain of sand and they sent satellites way into space, and they, do you know what I mean, got telescopes so they could see beyond the stars, and they still haven't found what they were looking for. The problem is they were looking out there and not looking in here.
And everything they needed was right there. And
everything you needed was inside the whole time, because as above, so below, as within, so without. Right? Yeah.
So, shall we?
I need 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes to take a break.
Have a 15-minute break or something?
Yes, I would like a break. I would like to get a cold drink, or like my drink that I have is not cold anymore, so I want to refresh it.
I want to make a cup of tea.
I want to just kind of take a few minutes to breathe, because I feel like in a really good place right now. You know,
land into that place, Elijah. Take your time, take a little breather, drink it in, love.
I also want to turn this light off that's in my face. It's like blinding me, you know. I used to do the classes, and some of the classes went 9, 10, 14. The longest one I did went, I think it was like 17 hours or something stupid, like crazy. And the average one was like 6 to 8 hours. And I have this light, this ring light around my camera, and it's on like all the time. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, after a while, it's just like, no, I can't look at the screen and have the light in my face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
take what
need a
you
break.
need. Take what
Just
you
need a
need.
break. Yeah.
Yes, take a break.
So I shall be back very shortly. Appreciate you all.
Are you coming back, Anna? Or are we,
I'm going to get a cup of tea and then I'll come back.
all right, we'll see. What should we say? Quarter past 10? Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, that sounds good. Are you going to leave the portal open?
Yeah, of course. I will.
Lovely.
do,
I
but
will
I'm gonna
say,
switch my camera.
Giles, that's pretty late for me, so I might.
You're going to be. Okay.
Um,
Thank you for mentioning. So
I actually would love to stay, but I've in Denmark.
Yeah.
You start work at 8 o'clock instead of 9. They actually start early here, finish early.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
I
hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have
Yeah.
tonight, Alan. And
No, thank you. This is I really enjoyed this again, and I can feel, and it's actually what you said as well, right, Giles? Is like I actually come away from these calls feeling really positive and full of new ideas to try things. You know.
I'm glad you sort of like got to experience what it's like when someone does criteria and values.
Yeah.
on you there
Yeah,
tonight.
and it's funny you pointed out. I thought I was quite quiet, but I do actually express waving my hands around quite a lot. I never realised.
Sure. Well, I was listening to what you said more than mimicking your. I don't do too much verbal pacing, too much non-verbal pacing, not at the conscious level. Anyway, but maybe I don't pay as much attention as Elijah does with things like that. But anyway, we'll hopefully we'll see you next week. And
No, I'd love to come back next week. It's great. This is really enjoyable, and it's great to see you, Giles, and great to see you, Enna, as well. And Elijah, I guess, is gone. But tell him I've really enjoyed this. Really, really enjoyed this. So thank you, everybody.
Fantastic.
see you next week,
Good
Alan.
night, and see you next week.
Rest well.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, so it's just you and I now. Now then, by the looks of things, so I think everyone's disappeared. So I won't keep you. I won't keep.
Would you like to do a little debrief with me? How do you feel like that session went, considering how you felt in the run up to it? Like, how has it been for you?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stop recording now. At this.
Right on. We can just have a